Rebecca Weiner goes on the record. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on Picks on Politics. It's great to see you. Just about 2 weeks on the job now. How's it going?
So far, so good, and thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. A week and a half into the new role, but 17 years with the department, so a lot of continuity.
Yeah, you are the first woman to hold this role. How does that feel for you? And do you think it'll have any impact on how you approach the work?
I am honored to be the first woman in this role, and I look to mentors and role models, other women who've been leaders in the law enforcement and intel world, and think about Commissioner Sewell, who just left, the Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, the first female director of CIA, the Vice President, all of these women who've been role models and sources of inspiration for me, and all of the strong and powerful female chiefs on our department. So I'm extremely happy to help pay it forward a bit and to be a role model for all of the folks who are thinking about entering this field, and a mentor within our organization, because that's a really important part of it too.
You've spoken in the past about one of your career inspirations, your grandfather. Tell me a bit about his work and how his work has influenced your career.
So my grandfather was from Poland. He emigrated to the U.S. He and his brother actually departed from Poland right before the invasion, and he was a mathematician. So spent much of his career in the academy and then was recruited to work on the Manhattan Project. Went over to Los Alamos with my grandmother when she was newly pregnant at the time with my mom, and spent much of his career working on computers and on the development of nuclear weapons. A huge source of inspiration, both he and my grandmother, with whom I was extremely close. And the way that he decided to use intelligence, and in this case science, to help protect the country was part of the reason I wanted to devote my career to national security.
Absolutely. Now you've spent about 17 years with the NYPD, the Counterterrorism Unit. I'm curious to hear how your work has changed in recent years with the development of new technology. We're now in this age of AI and drones and robots. How does this technology influence your work?
It's been a huge change in the terrorism threat landscape over the last 20 years. And technology's played a key role in driving that. So on the one hand, technology can be accompanied by new vectors of threat. So I think about social media as an enabler of individuals who are mobilizing toward violence. It can also be a solution, and you can also leverage technology to help prevent threat and to make things safer. And so that's exactly what we've been trying to do over the last decade and a half that we've been with this department. And luckily the tools have become a lot stronger in enabling us to do just that.
And it'll be interesting to see where the tools take your work next. But of course, it seems almost like we have no idea what could be coming down the line.
No, and I think AI is a big part of that. You know, just the ease with which disinformation and fraud, cyber threat can be perpetrated makes us all have to think really hard about strategies.
Yeah. Counterterrorism efforts, for the most part, they go unnoticed in New York City, which is actually a good thing, right? So what do you want New Yorkers to know about your work and what you're currently doing to keep them safe?
We have an incredible team of investigators, of analysts, of officers who spend their days working and doing their level best to prevent terrorism from being in the news. And that's what we want to keep it from being. So we work day and night. We are very nimble. We follow threats wherever they lead us. But the key point is we do everything we can to keep you safe, so you don't have to be hearing from us very often.
So right now, what do you think are some of the biggest threats to the city, and how is your department working to combat them and prevent them?
Over the last couple of years, we've seen accompanying upticks in crime, which are now coming very well under control, which is fantastic, and a credit to the mayor, to the police commissioner, current and former, and to the team of executives there. In the terrorism front, we've seen an increase in what we call racially and ethnically motivated extremism. That's been around the world, across the country, and in our area of responsibility as well as the influence of disinformation and conspiracy theories. So that's part of the equation that was not part of the equation when I joined the police department back in 2006, and we were really focusing on external threats from terrorist organizations that you've heard of. Those are still around, but it's a lot more complex now.
And taking a look at the racial and ethnically motivated crimes that we're seeing happen in New York City, how is your unit working to respond to them, and what role and what approach do you plan to take as Deputy Commissioner?
So this is an area that we have put a lot of resources into over the last couple of years, and we plan to continue to do that. And we work hand in glove with partners, whether it's partners within our own department, our hate crimes unit, obviously, and other resources internally, but then federal partners as well. And we make sure that we are identifying threats before they manifest in our city, wherever they emerge from.
And so in terms of bias attacks, is there a particular group that you're especially concerned about? And if so, how are you, working to protect that community?
So our threat often comes in the form of the lone actor, who is mobilizing often in the comfort of their own home, spending a lot of time online. We saw that with the pandemic. People were inside, online, and fearful, as well as groups, but really it's the lone actor that we're focusing our resources on.
Yeah, the NYPD also has a new commissioner now.
Yes.
Talk to me about your relationship with Commissioner Caban.
An absolute wonderful leader, and obviously extraordinarily experienced, over 30 years within the department. But what really stands out is his authenticity and warmth, and the expertise that he brings to the job, but also the personal human connection, and that's a really important part.
Have you had an opportunity to sit down with him yet and
Yes.
share your goals and your vision for the counterterrorism unit?
Yep, absolutely. He's a tremendous support.
Your role was vacant for about a year before you were named and stepped in. Does that add or pose an additional challenge? Does it step up the pressure at all?
So I am the incoming deputy commissioner, but the role was actually filled for several months by our chief of intelligence, who had been there. So he left about 3 months ago, and I had been working with him and with obviously John Miller for a number of years. So we've had a good team in place, and now it's wonderful that it's formalized.
And how large is your department? How many officers do you work with?
We have hundreds of officers in our bureau that we work with day in and day out.
And are they primarily at one police plaza, at precincts around the city?
They're spread out around the city to make sure that we can respond whenever we need to whatever we have in front of us.
And reading a bit about your background, I saw you attended law school. Did you anticipate that your career would ultimately go down this path?
No, absolutely not at all. It's been a fortuitous surprise. Yeah, I thought that I would be spending a couple years with the department when I first joined and then move on to something else, but I've loved it. It's been a great opportunity to see news in the making every day.
All right, well, Deputy Commissioner Rebecca Weiner, thank you so much for your time, and thank